Dr. Fatalis, or Dr. Doom in the original version, is the historical enemy of the Fantastic Four. You probably know him thanks to 3 Fantastic Four movies, although none of the adaptations were successful, or with the help of Marvel vs. Capcom games, where he is part of the usual roster. He also appeared more recently in the game Fortnite, so some of you must have heard about it. But do you know his true origins? Do you know how his rivalry with Reed Richards led Dr. Fatalis to become one of the strongest villains, able to easily defeat Thanos or Galactus in certain situations? That's what we're going to see now. Prepare your coffee, sit down comfortably. I am Sam and you are on KraziGeek. The origins of Dr. Fatalis. Before becoming Dr. Fatalis, he was born in the Roman clan of the Zafiro, settled in a small fictional country in Central Europe called Latveria. He didn't really know his mother because she was a witch who had called on Mephisto to increase the power of his powers. Unable to contain them because they were too strong, she died and her soul was imprisoned by the Master of Hell. Following this tragedy, his father did his best to raise him alone and protect him. One day, the king of Latveria asked Werner to save his wife from cancer, but despite his efforts, he failed. The king then held him responsible for the death of his wife, so that with his son, he was forced to flee the country. But this was not the ideal time to leave, since it was winter and it was extremely cold. He died protecting his son, who entrusted in a last breath to his best friend Boris. During his adolescence, Victor discovered the origins of his mother's witchcraft thanks to mystical objects that she possessed. And following this discovery, he made the choice to learn witchcraft in an autodidact way. Not bad for a teenager. He also started a personal war against the authoritarian monarchy set up in Latveria, thanks to several of his inventions. All this will also allow him to create a notoriety and to be approached by the State University of New York. Victor therefore went to a stock exchange and was welcomed by a famous Reed Richards, a gifted student who had a taste for Victor's intelligence. He offered him to share his room with him, but the young Latvian, marked by his experiences and his losses, preferred to make room alone. This is how the rivalry between the two began, which never ceased to increase during their studies. Victor thinking himself superior to Reed Richards. While Victor was working on a machine allowing him to project his image through dimensions, and this in order to be able to communicate with his deceased mother, Reed Richards entered his room. Spotting a calculation error in the machine, he informed Victor, but the latter, too proud and stubborn for a man who could be wrong, refused to listen to him. He locked himself in his room and tried the machine. Thanks to it, he discovered that his mother was imprisoned in the hells of Mephisto, but after that his invention exploded and injured him on the face, leaving him a large scar. He will later accuse Reed Richards of his failure, which muted his rivalry in hatred. But in reality, Victor's calculations were good, so he was right not to doubt himself. It was a certain Bengram, the future Lacose, who had modified the machine and was responsible for the error. Victor was then expelled from the university, and he decided to go to Tibet to isolate himself and meet Genghis. He advised him to go to an ancient monastic order of the Tibetan mountains. Victor surrendered and became the master of the lesser present in a very short time. He thus asked his new followers to create him an armor that could hide his face from the rest of the world forever. He was so eager to wear his armor that Victor put the mask, still burning on his face, without waiting for it to cool down. This is how Naki, the Dr. Fatalis, came back to conquer his nation of origin, Latveria, while killing the king who had made his father flee his country. He became the undisputed sovereign of this country, and against all odds, he even proved to be an excellent leader, quickly transforming his country into a jewel of technology protected from the outside world. The Latvians live in a kind of utopia and are quite faithful to their leaders, who do not share war without power, but who always make sure to protect their population from external threats. His new status of political leader also makes him a complex target for heroes who cannot kill him or even keep him in prison for a long time because of his diplomatic immunity. Fatalis is untouchable. So yes, we are very, very, very far from the ridiculous origins of the various films. He is a tragic and nuanced character to whom we can attach, and who is also capable of goodness, especially when it comes to his people. He is a really badass and out-of-the-ordinary villain who has been bathed in hatred and revenge since he was a child. His intelligence, his status, his magic, and his technology also allowed him to become one of the strongest villains in the Marvel Universe. The rivalry with Reed Richards' revenge and hatred are not the only things that have allowed him to reach his current level. His rivalry with Reed Richards is also his greatest source of experience. Dr. Fatalis therefore has 3 main objectives: free his mother from the clutches of Mephisto, conquer the world, and prove that he is undoubtedly superior to Reed Richards, who is often considered the smartest character in the Marvel Universe. He wants to be the first in all categories, but he remains the second. He is just behind Reed Richards in terms of intelligence, just behind Stark in terms of technology, and he is the second most powerful wizard in the world, behind Strange, the Supreme Wizard. However, these three combined second places make him an even more formidable opponent than his rivals. He is without a doubt the human born without power, the most powerful in the entire Marvel Universe. His confidence in himself is total, which makes him the being with the greatest will of all. He is therefore very resistant to psychic attacks. And if Fatalis was a shonen hero, he would undoubtedly have become Hokage and the Pirate King in just 1 week. Regarding his rivalry with Reed Richards, Victor went so far as to create a mental battle at the embassy of Latveria to determine which of them was the smartest. Victor seemed to triumph in the duel, but it turns out that Reed Richards had actually hypnotized him in order to make him believe in his victory and in the disappearance of Mr. Fantastic in the limbo. He hoped that thanks to this subterfuge, Victor would no longer attack the Fantastic Four, convinced that he had finally achieved his ultimate goal. Yeah, clearly, Reed Richards can't stand this rivalry and would just like it to end as soon as possible. After that, it must also be said that Victor's superiority complex does not help him in this quest. He really needs to prove that he is just the smartest person on Earth, and his quest will not stop so soon, I think. Dr. Fatalis is a frankly super interesting character. His egocentric side pushes him to be at the top of his game, even if he remains the eternal second in the way of a Vegeta. He is the historical enemy of the Fantastic Four, but more and more he becomes kind and begins to help the planet Earth, in addition to only the Latverians. For example, when the Beyonders are trying to destroy the multiverse, Victor von Fatalis is one of the Terrians who tries to prevent them, and will also manage to steal their power. He even helped Tony Stark by temporarily haunting his Iron Man armor after his coma following the events of Civil War II, then becoming the infamous Iron Man. Moreover, he is one of the most accomplished villains in the Marvel Universe, having already been at the head of the entire universe. We have already seen him disintegrate Thanos in a fraction of a second, steal the powers of many superior villains like Galactus precisely. In addition, thanks to his technology, his use of robotic clones, the Fatalibots, and his ability to transfer his soul into other bodies, he is a really unstoppable character. If I really had to make his real strength one day, he would probably be one of the most powerful characters I have ever mentioned. In addition, it's a bit like Batman in DC Comics. If he has time to prepare, he will win for sure, at least temporarily. If you would like us to talk in more detail about his curiosities and more hidden stories, do not stop putting it in the comments. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, I hope you liked and subscribed to the channel. See you next time in Doomsday and Secret Wars.